Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV.tv, and iTube 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. So today is an interesting show because I just talked to Howard Bloom Saturday, part 1, part 2, and he's so interesting I had to do part 3 and part 4. Terri wasn't able to make it because she was sick. So, but the interesting thing is I've read the book, seen the documentary, and talked to Howard. Terri has seen the documentary, hasn't read the book, and then she's going to talk to Howard later. So how interesting is that? So Terri, tell us who you are and where you're coming from, first of all.
Hi, guys. This is Terri Marie. I'm out of Redondo Beach, California. Brian's co-host, fitness personality, and glad to be here. Missing the red carpet, but we'll be able to do these shows during coronavirus. But I did not have coronavirus this weekend. I just had a little bit of a stomach flu, but I'm over it now and glad to be back. But I really bummed. I missed Howard, but I did watch the documentary. It was fascinating, so I cannot wait to pick his brain, in the next interview we have with him.
And Charlie, talk about how long you've been a filmmaker. How did you get access to Howard for this, and what made you do the documentary? That's interesting because I only knew about it 4 days ago, I think.
Yeah. So Charlie Hoxie, calling in from Brooklyn, New York. And yeah, so let's see. There was a few questions. Start with my experience as a filmmaker. I've been in New York for close to 15 years now. Started at the bottom with no experience with documentary film, and eventually did a program at NYU journalism school. Came out of that with a degree and a lot of kind of formal training in documentary filmmaking. And from that point, got hired by this company, Brick, which is where I've been working ever since, and who actually produced the film. And so my experience is, for Brick, I've been doing a lot of short documentaries in the time I've been there, just kind of captivating Brooklyn personalities and stories. And I've been expanding a little bit, doing slightly longer pieces. Before this, I'd made like a 15-minute short. And then when I met Howard, there was just obviously so much there to his story that we were able to do our first feature film. And I met Howard through my boss at Brick, who's the executive producer of the film, Aziz Isham. He had kind of a mutual acquaintance with Howard, and Howard, one of his life projects that you learn about a little bit about in the film is this grand unified theory of everything in the universe, including the human soul, which is just kind of a synthesis of all of his work and just trying to really make sense of the question of what does the universe want from you and me. And so he has a TV version of that book, quote unquote book. It's just kind of like a huge table of contents at this point that he hasn't had the opportunity to expand upon. But he has the idea to make a TV series based on that as well. So he has had kind of a pitch deck for the TV series for some time, I think a couple decades. And
Wow.
This pitch found its way to my boss, Aziz, and that struck up a relationship between Howard and Brick. We actually did some filming with him in our studio in downtown Brooklyn. And Aziz showed me some of the content that they had shot with Howard and asked if I was interested in being a part of this project. And the more I learned about Howard and his story, I proposed the idea of just doing a documentary about Howard and his life. And then so Aziz connected us and we hit it off. And basically, so this is all in 2016. Fall of 2016, started filming with Howard. Filmed for about a year and a half, and then kind of focused on the editing full time, and then the film premiered last fall at Doc NYC in New York.
Just like
I'm sorry, where did it premiere at? I missed that.
At Doc NYC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just like most documentaries, how many hours did you shoot?
So I didn't really have the capabilities or resources to just kind of, fly on the wall filming him all day, every day. So we did film a lot, obviously, but it wasn't that kind of like, verite style. It was more focused shoots. If Howard had some event going on that we wanted to capture, sort of thing, and then interviews here and there. So it wasn't like hundreds of hours. It was I think more like 50 or so, which still a lot to sort through. But yeah, it wasn't like a multiple year long mountains of footage that we were combing through the thing. It was more focused.
Did you guys have a lot of stuff that you might have cut out of the film, or did you pretty much get everything in there that you wanted? Or
yeah, I mean, I think Howard is such a complex, deep character, and I think we could have gone more into detail about any of the individual aspects of his life, from his music days to chronic fatigue to what he's up to now. And in the film, it ends up just being more of like an introduction to Howard and his philosophy, and even like some of his books. We present little nuggets, and the film is kind of structured around some of his philosophies, which are like the chapter markers within the film. And so in a way, we essentially use Howard's own life and how he's lived his life to actually illustrate his various philosophies and ways of looking at the world. But those books, if you've seen them, they're all like thick tomes, and you could make a whole film on any one of those books. So we kind of had to realize what was feasible to do within our resources, and so yeah, this is there's many more films that could be made about Howard. There's more Howard enthusiasts out there, but this is just kind of an intro in a sense.
because that's what Brian was saying. Weren't you saying, Brian, that when you guys interviewed him on, was it Saturday, that you didn't even touch the surface?
No, because I'm sure, Charlie, you know this.
Yeah.
We would ask one question and all of a sudden he would just go off on everything. So he talks like, and I talk like this too. He talks like he writes in his book. He's got stories that everything is connected to everything, and you got to get it all out of your system because there's so much in his brain going, and I could totally relate to it. He and I hate to wear suits. He and I, when we're walking, the first person, if I see a dog, I say hi to the dog, not to the human, because I think the human's more important. And we would just he and I were laughing about that because that's what we do. And then I could be on the phone and someone saying, "Oh, you're talking to a beautiful girl." I'm like, "No, I'm talking to the dog." The dog is much more important at that point. So we could relate to that. So, but Terri, there was so many stories, and Charlie, you know this. I really focused on Prince because it was up to him that he saved the movie Purple Rain. And since I know what it's like to screen those things, the studio may want to put it. I mean, here, for example, as you know, Purple Rain was made for $8 million. Prince is the artist to ever, write that song, be in it, and then also obviously win an Oscar for that. No one else has ever done that before. But Warner Brothers, Terri, didn't believe in the movie. They thought it was a piece of crap, so they were going to release it in only 6 theaters. And so at that point, it was because of Howard coming to save it, having it screened in San Diego, having 3 movie reviewers go and see it and not telling the studios, save that movie. It goes from making $8 million for the budget to making $80 million. In today's money, it would be $150 million. Kudos to him for doing that, because this is what it's all about. This is why I like talking to filmmakers. This is why I call myself a movie whore, because it's about that movie, it's about that content that may not even be in there. So Charlie, talking about that, but also what was left on the floor that you didn't have time to put in, just due time, that was good. I'm sure you had some that you couldn't get in.
Yeah, I mean, things like that, even, like that's a story that, and like many from Howard's rock and roll days, which maybe he touches that in his new book. I can't remember, but yeah, it would have been great to try and track down some more of the folks that he worked with. We reached out to a few. There's in the film we interviewed Joan Jett and her longtime collaborator Kenny Laguna, who Howard still has a personal relationship with, so he was able to kind of open that door for us. But yeah, I mean that would have been great. It also would have been a different kind of film to dwell on that space for longer. I'm kind of happy with the way it turned out. With Joan Jett is such an icon, and I think her interview spoke volumes to just Howard's legitimacy. I mean, the main thing we wanted to get across was Howard was a big deal. And I mean, even with Joan Jett, similar in a way to the Prince story of back when, Joan Jett was in the Runaways, and then she had started her own band, and it was kind of in a lot of ways starting from square one. And Howard, he saw something in Joan the same way he saw, something in Purple Rain, and took her on as a client for no fee for the first year, and that eventually really paid off. But to your question of things that actually got left on the cutting room floor, I mean, we had I was very interested in just following Howard around for what ended up being a little over a year, and just trying to get in his world a little bit. And yet, the music stuff and the chronic fatigue and his writing is all amazing, but just, Howard Bloom, the person, and how he lives his life, and how the way that he lives his life exemplifies and illustrates, what he writes about, and really what he's been doing his whole life. And so in that process, we filmed with some kind of tangential folks. There's a scene where he's invited to Purdue University to give a speech on paradigm shifts. And so that kind of comes later on in the film. And there was a pretty lively Q&A session. And one of the women who was asked him a question that had a pretty long, profound answer to it. And actually the answer is in the film, but not the question, the way we edited it. But I talked to the woman after the Q&A and everything, and she was this amazing artist who created works greatly inspired by similar content to what Howard writes books about kind of cosmic phenomena, and trying to find purpose as we're all just stardust, floating through this universe. And so that was something where I went and filmed with her the next day and filmed some of her artwork and did an interview with her. And I think it was a really beautiful scene, and I really enjoyed capturing it and getting to know her. And I had that in the cut of the film for a long time, but just feedback that I got from people, every time they saw that scene, it would just kind of give it a little bit of a roadblock. Some people liked it, but enough people thought that it was just too kind of random and distracting that I ended up pulling it. So it kind of speaks to the process of doing 1,000 edits and 1,000 versions and trying to show it to as many people as you can before being done with it. Some filmmakers might be the kind of visionary that just wants to put out what they want to put out, and that's amazing as well. I was interested in doing that, but also wanting to make a film that would make sense to as many people as possible, and reach as many people as possible. So things like that, of pulling that scene out to just overall make the flow, I guess, easier to follow for the audience.
It was kind of amazing too on how Howard deals with his chronic fatigue and the 4 hours of sleeping. I was kind of thought that was kind of fascinating, because a lot of people suffer from chronic fatigue. I mean, I have a little bit of it myself, so I can kind of understand that. So that was just kind of interesting that he like he's learned how to deal with it and be productive.
Yeah. And I think, you know, underlying the whole film, I think is a bit of a message of finding your own way through life, whatever that may be. So I think the way in which, you know, Howard had to try all these sort of bizarre life strategies so in the film he sleeps, and in life he sleeps, he wakes up at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. is it? It's been a while.
8.
Yeah, and then does a few things, goes back to bed at 11, sleeps until 3 p.m., wakes up at 3, and then his day really starts. And then his whole routine of, you know, taking over 30 different vitamins and supplements twice daily. You know, his meal, which is a very regimented thing. I don't know what it is these days, but you know, at one point it was like some tuna fish, 1 mango, 1 avocado, 1 banana, like all cut up and all formulated, you know, for efficiency. So anyways, like, you know, being forced to try these different life strategies and finding what worked and then really embracing that and sticking with it, I think just, speaks to that overall message of just, you know, living, like, not realizing that you don't have to live your life in the scripted way that you see around you. So I think, you know, whether it's sleep habits or, you know, career and life path or diet or whatever, just like, you know, finding what works for you as a unique being in the universe, I think is the message, underneath all of that.
Yeah, or people need to listen to that message, because, you know, the 9 to 5 thing doesn't work for everybody. You know, it's just, you need to kind of listen to your body and, you know, how you work better. I mean, I work better. Some people work better in the morning. Some people work better at night. Some people work better with Howard, like having these weird sleeping patterns. But I mean, it's kind of an eye opener that, you know, you need to try different things that work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, it also, I think there's a parallel with his work that he did with the, you know, rock stars in the 70s and 80s. Really his whole strategy with his clients was to, first of all, you know, get to know them on a really deep, authentic level. So typically what that would look like would be spending a couple days with them, you know, in their own turf. And through that process, you know, Howard would try to filter through their life story and, you know, how they got to where they are, the really meaningful bits, you know, and what Howard would say is kind of the, you know, just the parts of their soul, get to know their soul, really, and what drove them to become who they are. And like, you know, true, authentic soul, and not just like a story that's fabricated to sell records. And so not only getting to know that authentic soul, but then encouraging the artist to kind of fan that flame and focus on that aspect of the story, those kind of like just, you know, authentic facts about who they are and how they became who they are. So in like, in the same way that he became his own like eccentric, unique, but very authentic self to like, you know, who Howard is, that was like his strategy for helping, you know, his stars to like fan their flames as well. And what I try to show in the course of the film is, you know, this strategy is something that we can all think about and take into our own lives a little bit more, just, you know, being our own unique selves, being in touch with our passions and what works with us. And
Did you say he has a fear of flying too?
Flying?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I haven't heard that. I flew with him to Purdue for that shoot, and yeah, I mean, you know, before the pandemic and everything, he was traveling now and then. He came out to California for the Santa Barbara screening.
You know, what was interesting about that, Santa Barbara is my favorite film festival. I think I told you on the phone. I was so bummed because Terry and I, we were at NAMM, and there's like no way I could have made it. So I missed the Brad Pitt event. I missed your thing. I missed the Sergio Mendes one, and then I caught up with Sergio Mendes. I'm glad I'm going to get a chance to see you now, and then always talking to Howard, and then so Brad Pitt's next.
Nice. Yeah, there you go.
About that is, Terry, did you know anything about Howard before you saw this film, or had you heard about him at all?
I heard about Howard. You know, I'm a big rock fan and really big into music, so I've heard about him, but I didn't really know like his whole story. So it was really interesting to hear more of the background. You know, I mean, I'm familiar with him, but not now. I'm a lot more familiar, obviously, with watching the documentary, and it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of, where did I meet him? I'm trying to think of, because if I did, what was the last year that he was confined to bed before he started getting out and doing stuff again?
I think it was like 2006 or early 2000s, sometime around there.
Okay, because if I did meet him, it would have been at the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills with one of the. It might have been. That's the only thing I could think of if I did, but it's so familiar. I just knew it wasn't before then, so that was interesting. Talking about getting a film accepted, because I know what it's like to choose films. When I was doing stuff for Hollywood Film Festival and Detroit International Film Festival, what was it like when you got that notice saying that your film was accepted to Santa Barbara? Because that's a great feat. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah,
it's like to screen all those films, not for 10 minutes. I watched the whole film. So yours is short enough, but still, for Sundance, they only watch 10 minutes. They don't tell people that, but that's not enough time.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, Howard is a unique person, and I think it's a unique film. We tried to be pretty creative in our approach and presentation. So, yeah, I know that the film is a little bit different from like the normal documentaries one might see at a festival. So yeah, I knew it was going to be a little bit of a challenge, just like screening at a festival to begin with. So I'd say, you know, first finding out about Doc NYC, which is the largest documentary festival in the US, was, you know, I mean, because we were still tweaking the film a little bit up until it being accepted by Doc NYC. And I was pretty much at that point, though, like we had been submitting it and tweaking it. I think by the time we submitted to Doc NYC, I was like, you know, maybe it's just not going to get into a festival. And like, I'm okay with that, because I think we, at that point, had a film that we were really proud of and wanted to get it out into the world one way or another. And then obviously it being like a New York story and a New York team, it just, you know, Doc NYC was a great fit for the world premiere. So that was like quite a thrill, just to like know that it was finally going to screen somewhere, and then actually finally like lock picture and sound and do the, you know, final color correction and sound mix, and just really just finish it off for public presentation. That all was a pretty amazing experience for me. You know, this being my first feature film and presenting on that, like that kind of platform. And then, yeah, Santa Barbara was, I'd known about Santa Barbara for a while as just kind of a lesser known, but still like very prestigious film festival. And I think I was able to just reach out to one of the programmers. We were a little bit late with our submission. Yeah, you know, heard back from them. I think so. It ended up being kind of a late edition, and they were able to put it in this. It was like a kind of like a music film sidebar, which is cool because we also have gotten into like science, and there's like a science and design film festival and the Raw Science Film Festival in Los Angeles. But then at Santa Barbara, it's screened as a music film. So I think it's cool that it can like kind of slide into different categories. It's can't put the film in one specific bucket. I kind of like that. But yeah, Santa Barbara screening was different experience from New York, as one would imagine. Much nicer weather. But yeah, it's always cool to just
what
like
was the
get up
audience
and-
reaction from Santa Barbara? Because Terri and I have been for red carpet stuff, but I've been for throughout the duration of that, but I haven't been. I didn't. Like I said, I couldn't make it this year because they moved it up.
Yeah, it's always awesome. Just like typically my work is just shown on we have like a cable TV channel here in Brooklyn and online as well. So I don't often do public screenings where you get to interact with people directly. So, and then presenting someone as just like unique and engaging and lively as Howard, it was such a thrill that he was able to come out to California as well. He was, at the New York screening, obviously. But yeah, I mean, like packed house and lively reception. I think like you see Howard in the film and it's kind of like, wow, this is like amazing that this person exists. And then they get to see him in the flesh afterwards and do a Q&A. So yeah, that's a thrill to see. And after the screening, we did a Q&A, and then we like went up the street to a brewery, and like Howard got to just have like
I'm
a circle
so
of
bummed
people
that I
around
missed
him.
that now.
Yeah. No, it was great. Yeah, Howard was just kind of like holding court and just had like a circle around him and just like leading a post screening discussion. But yeah, it's great. I mean, and then we just got into it's called the Not Film Festival, or Note. I'm not sure how to pronounce it exactly. NOT Film Festival in Italy, which is at the end of August. And obviously, it'd be amazing to be able to go, but it doesn't really look like Italy is going to be letting in Americans anytime soon with our infection rates, unfortunately. But yeah.
Wow. Hey, what would you say? Where's it going to be? Are you guys still working on distribution, or are you going to have more film festivals? Do you know?
Yeah. So this might be the last film festival. I think there's maybe a couple more that I've submitted to and haven't heard back yet. So there might be some more, but I think this Italian screening might be the end of the run, but we are going to be releasing, let's see, it's the 21st, which is next Tuesday. It'll be available on iTunes and Vimeo. So yeah, so we're distributing through 1091 Media, which has been great. They've been starting to do some press outreach, and seem like they're going to be a good partner for getting the film out there. And yeah, so it'll be available for download through iTunes and Vimeo at first, and then I think there's some other plans and talks in the works about other distribution platforms. So we'll see.
This is kind of strange because I usually we see the film, us critics, and then we do, we have our, we would have the radio roundtable. There might be myself and like 3 other people, or it might just be me, to do the one-on-one interviews, which is always great. And then, if there's a red carpet premiere of that's where like Terri would come in to do that on the red carpet. But one of the things that is really strange is to read the book first, to see the film, and then talk to Howard. That's highly unusual. Here's a question for you. Did you read the book, or did you just not want to read the book? It's all about filming him?
No, yeah. Well, which book are you referring to?
Einstein, Michael Jackson, and Me.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I've read some of that. That he actually wrote that while we were filming. It kind of happened towards the end of filming. He just realized that was a book that he wanted to write, and he like jammed it out in a couple months. But back when I first met him, the first book I read was The God Problem, which is what's the subtitle? It's like exploration, how a godless cosmos creates. So it's really all about like the human quest for comprehension of the natural laws of the universe. So pretty like broad, far-reaching topics, synthesizes a lot. And I love that stuff. I was a geology major in college, so I just really love kind of like big picture thinking and analysis of Earth and life and natural laws and math and all of that, tying all of that together. So I mean, it's not a light read. I started that back in 2016, and I finished it right before we premiered last fall. But then while we were shooting, I also read his first book, The Lucifer Principle, which is probably his most well-known work, which is pretty amazing. It also kind of gives that zoomed out, big picture thinking analysis to humans and groups of humans, as well as groups of other organisms, and shows how groups of organisms can evolve the same way an individual organism can evolve. And he uses that to actually explore the ideas of good and evil and how those might have arisen and evolved in humans. So I recommend those books if you're into like science and understanding how the world works. They're not easy reads, but they're worth diving into.
How many books has Howard written total?
It's either 8 or 9. I want to say. His second book was The Genius of the Beast, I believe. His second book was Global Brain, and then Genius of the Beast, God Problem.
One of them was How I Saved the 60s or something like that.
How I Accidentally Started the 60s. Right. And then The Muhammad Code, which is about Islam. And so I think this is his 7th book. I think Einstein, Michael Jackson, and Me is number 7, I believe.
We got about 3 minutes. How would you describe Howard to someone who's never met him but knows all the artists that he handled?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to like sum Howard up into like the elevator pitch. You know, that's I think I've struggled with that this entire project. But yeah, I usually would tell people that he was once the top publicist in the music industry. And you kind of say some of the people that he worked with just to get somebody's attention. And then, that he was doing that up until being bedridden for 15 years, 20 years.
That part right there is just incredible alone,
Yes, yeah.
Right, yeah. And then reemerged as a science author and self-styled cosmic philosopher. Who's, on a mission to let us all know what the universe wants from us. So I think that's about as like condensed
for
as
you,
you can
Charlie.
get.
My rating is for you. I have the 4 E's, and so your film is entertaining, engaging, emotional, and empathetic. So to get the 4 E's, that's a sign of a great film. It could be.
Oh man, that's great.
It could be a documentary. And then, so I also have 2 other film festivals. Even though you have your distribution and everything, I've already called them and let them know. One is one, Terry, that we've done one called SWIFT, Southern Women in Film and Television,
Yeah.
in Franklin, Tennessee. And the other one is Beloit International Film Festival in Beloit, Wisconsin. Because we found some great films from there for Hollywood, from Chicago. And that audience would love your film. So I'm going to put you with my friend Greg, who's the exec producer of that.
Great. And I'm actually, I'm from Chicago. So my family, we would go up to northern Wisconsin every summer, driving past Beloit. So I know about Beloit. It'd be great to see.
Yeah, it's a town of 36. It's called the Mini Sundance of the film festival. It really is one of the good film festivals. So theirs is the weekend before the Oscars and the weekend of the Oscars. So they got their film festival done. The next day, everything was shut down. So that might be the only one. And Terry and three of the other girls, we're scheduled to go there next year if everything is okay, because it's in February. So it might be doable. We're still playing with it because we don't know. It's still early, But that's one that we would submit it to because they have it set up a different way and it just works.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let me know who to talk to.
So for those people who haven't seen it yet, how would you describe this film so that they go to iTunes and check it out? What would you say?
Just kind of like the brief story of the film.
Yeah.
So it's the story of an iconic publicist turned cosmic philosopher who's on a mission to share with us all the secrets of the cosmos that he's ascertained.
Wow, that's pretty deep. Terry, give your website.
TerriMarieOfficial.com, and then Terri Marie Nonstop on all platforms, on Instagram and Facebook.
Charlie, give the website, and then last question, how did you come up with the poster? And then what did Howard think of seeing himself on the big screen?
So CharlieHoxie.com is probably the easiest way to just find it, or if Google the film, whatever, all that information will be there. The link to pre-sales, you can actually purchase the film now. And the poster was done by an amazing artist based in the UK. Its Instagram handle is River Cousin, one word. And I was connected to him through a consulting producer on the film. And that was really one of the funnest parts of the whole project, was just seeing what he came up with, turning the film and all of the themes and aspects of Howard's personality into one image. And Howard loved the film. I mean, I think he felt like he was fairly portrayed, and there's one, funny story about his push-ups, which you see in the film. He does thousands of what he calls push-ups every day, but they're not actually push-ups. And he kind of went through a reckoning with himself after seeing the film and realizing that they weren't actually push-ups. And he now continues to do them, but he calls them, I think he calls it dynamic planking. That's or twist-ups, kind of.
I was gonna call him on that, but I figured I'd wait for Terry.
No, he's Terry could give him some pointers. But he's I'm really proud of the way he's owned up to those not being push-ups.
All right, I want to thank everybody for this. So, what a wonderful documentary. I got like 10 seconds. I don't want to cut you off. So, hey, this is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, WomenOnTV.tv and iTube247. I want to thank Terri Marie. I want to thank Charlie Hoxie. And you get a chance to go out, purchase this documentary. You will not be disappointed. And like I said, if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it.